In the 7th year with Tina, I finally made it to the wedding. Her friends joked around saying I finally got my springtime moment. Nobody seemed to know that it took Tina 3 years to win me over. On the wedding day, Tina's side fling crashed the event. Tina played along, protecting me in public, but secretly spent the wedding night with him. I didn't raise a fuss. I just quietly moved out for the night. At our next wedding attempt, Tina lost it. She showed up in a wedding dress to crash it. I just watched her calmly, and, as she looked on in pain, I placed the ring on my new bride's finger. 10 years after meeting Tina, she playfully hugged me and said, "Ben, a guy like you is perfect for a first love." Her words touched me, got my eyes teary. First love is meant to be forgotten. It's the one you can't have. I thought she was breaking up with me, but then Tina kissed my tear-stained eyes. Her voice was irresistible. But I wasn't one to chase the moon. I wanted to grab it myself. Surprisingly, Tina stood before me, holding a ring box, all hopeful. Tina tilted her head, unable to hide the joy and anticipation in her eyes. "Ben, let's get married." When I slipped that icy blue diamond ring on her finger, I really thought we were going to be happy forever. I was ready to be her husband. I even picked out future baby names. But 3 months after the proposal, a boy with a sunshine smile appeared by Tina's side. When I first asked about him, just mentioning his name annoyed her. He's just an innocent fool who's yet to face the real world. The boy's name was Eric, and he was as cheerful as his name suggested. Fresh out of college, he got into Tina's company through campus recruitment, acing it with his great academics and skills. On his first day, he and Tina practically collided in the elevator. Playing careless, she docked his pay for the day. He didn't complain, didn't get upset. After work, with a smile, he handed Tina a handwritten note. Eric admits his fault. Eric shouldn't have been so reckless at work, nor bumped into Miss Tina. Luckily, Miss Tina wasn't hurt. Eric sincerely apologizes. P.S. Miss Tina smells nice, like roses. I found this note when Tina brought it home. I couldn't really decipher my own feelings. Tina scoffed at it, snatched it and tossed it into the shredder. Then she pinned me against the table. "Don't mind him, he's just a weirdo." Yet, a month later, this awkward Eric, Tina's so-called weirdo, stood out among the interns. His role moved into Tina's office. He became her personal assistant. A personal assistant had nothing to do with work. His main tasks were making coffee, ordering food for Tina, covering her with a jacket when she napped, and bringing her honey water when she drank too much. It was pretty normal, I guess. But when Tina came home, she'd complain about Eric at the dinner table. She'd gripe about his clumsiness. She didn't even realize that as she ranted. Her eyes lit up, piercing my heart. I put my fork down. "Is there nothing other than Eric you can talk to me about?" Tina was stunned, then chuckled. "Sure thing, hubby." Yet, the next day, a company employee sent me a photo. Eric couldn't squeeze into the elevator, so Tina pulled him into the executive elevator by his hand. That night, I got a friend request. The notice was plain Eric. I accepted it, and he politely reached out. "Ben, I'm Eric. I added you on Instagram because I know how Tina loves her drinks. Sometimes she drinks too much and just crashes at the office. I can't always be there, so I got your Instagram from her. I'll contact you if she's ever too drunk." In just 3 sentences, he turned the tables like he owned the place, as if he was the fiancé. I didn't reply, and he never messaged again. Out of curiosity, I checked his Twitter. It was full of perfectly styled photos with cheeky, fun captions. "Scalded my hand making hand-ground coffee for the boss today. But instead of taking the cup, she held my hand, announcing it as my happiest moment of the day." It came with a picture of his reddened hand. "My boss always calls me clumsy, yet she has me do everything. Even when she's working on contracts, she asks me to feed her. I can't help it though. She's the boss." The picture showed Tina's office desk and her holding a pen. Bits and pieces, it easily looked like a couple showing off their love. I glanced at my own Twitter, just a few promotional posts for friends. No trace of Tina, no hint of love. I thought for a bit, then shared our wedding invite. We'd sent out invites to family and friends ages ago. An online invite felt pointless. I'd never considered posting one on Twitter until now. After posting, I realized, why was I getting caught up with a young guy? Tina didn't come home for an entire week. No messages, no calls. When I called, it was Eric who answered. Ben, Miss Tina is overseas for work right now, at a negotiation table, so she can't take calls. I hung up quietly. What happened to Tina? It's like she suddenly forgot about me. Before, when she traveled for work, she'd cling to me, wouldn't stop calling just to say goodnight. Now she's gone for a week. Didn't even tell me she was leaving the country. The next day, I saw Tina on the news. In a black dress that emphasized her cool, pale skin, she looked proud and dignified. Speaking fluent English on the company's prospects, she faced the media, but they were more curious about her love life. We hear Miss Tina's wedding is near. Have you found the one you love? Her eyes sparkled like stars. What I want, I have. She commanded the business world with a firm hand and played her love life the same way. Chasing after me for 3 years, she really showed it all. The media asked, anything you'd like to say to your partner? Tina looked at the camera, a smile tugging at her lips. Wait for me at home. But that night, until the next evening, Tina didn't come home. I sat in the dark living room, pondering what she said. Tina, how long do you want me to wait for you? My phone rang. It was a video call from Eric. I picked up, and there was Eric with his eyes smiling. Ben, Tina always wants me to tell you she's got stuff tonight. She won't make it back. From the background noise, it seemed like he was at a bar. When Tina fell in love with me, she left the bar scene behind during those 3 years of chasing me. We started meeting in high-end venues for business after that. Now she's back in a bar, wasted. How do I know? Because before hanging up, Eric dropped his phone, and I caught a glimpse of Tina resting her head on his lap. My heart sank, like plunging into an icy abyss. I slumped back on the couch, my mind in chaos. It's fine, isn't there something called pre-wedding jitters? Tina might just be too tired. We'll talk when she gets back, and it'll be all right. The next night, Tina finally returned. I had just showered, ready to rest, when the door opened behind me. Footsteps approached, the bed sank, and I was wrapped in her embrace. She held me, her cool lips gently brushing my neck, her voice hoarse. Ben, I missed you. I want to hold you, to kiss you. My eyes stung, but I lay still. I waited for this moment so long. Yet when she finally returned, words escaped me. Forget it. Let's pretend I'm asleep. With Tina, my wishes were often secondary in matters of affection. This time was no different. Her hand made its way under my pajamas. I grasped her wrist. Not sleeping? She asked softly. I pushed her hand away. I'm really tired. My voice sounded horrible, even to me. It seemed to startle her. Quickly, she checked my forehead and hugged me tighter. What's wrong? Are you sick? Feeling unwell? Why act so concerned? She was gone for over 10 days without a word. I couldn't figure it out, nor did I want to. I wrapped myself in the blanket, even covering my head. I need to sleep. Tina's sharp. She quickly sensed something, propping herself above me. Are you mad? She rubbed my head through the blanket. Sweet husband, it's my fault. The trip was so rushed I didn't have time to tell you. It won't happen again. Our wedding is in 3 days, all right? The next morning, I woke to find Tina had prepared a feast. I sat at the dining table, watching her in an apron, bustling in the kitchen. It reminded me of when we first got together. Tina was a princess, unfamiliar with even basic chores. But during my hospital stay for a stomach flu, she learned to cook nutritious meals in just 3 days. I offhandedly said they were delicious, and that sparked her culinary journey. That's how Tina is. Once she sets her mind to something, she excels at it. Now, after 7 years, her cooking rivals a 5-star chef's. She cooks all our meals at home. Thinking back, I haven't eaten her cooking since I proposed. Watching Tina still washing vegetables, I interrupted. It's just breakfast. You're making too much. Hearing my voice, she looked up at me, smiling. You've lost weight. I bet you weren't eating right while I was gone. I need to fatten you up again. She frowned, reminding, Don't you remember your stomach issues? You can't take care of yourself when I'm not around. How can I not worry? I didn't respond, unsure of what to say. Once done with the last dish, she sat across from me. She used to sit right next to me, joking we needed to be side by side no matter what. Unknowingly, she's begun to distance herself. Silly, don't wait for me, the food's better hot. I picked up my chopsticks, eating mindlessly. The tension was suffocating, driving me mad. I couldn't hold it in anymore, and turned to her. Tina, are you tired? Are you tired of this relationship? Tina placed her chopsticks down, ladling some soup, then gently pinched my cheek. Not tired, just lots to handle at work right now. I'm clearing 2 months for us after the wedding. I blinked, instinctively asking, for what? She sighed with a smile, our trip to Iceland. Silly. You said it yourself, remember? A brief flash of uncertainty. Then I did recall. It was a memory from 8 years ago, back when she was courting me. During a game of truth or dare which I lost, she asked where I'd want a honeymoon. I said Iceland. Without much thought, I just blurted it out. But unexpectedly, she remembered. For 8 years. I thought maybe I got the situation with Eric wrong. Eric's actions seemed designed to stir trouble between Tina and me. I should trust Tina. Trust the woman who's loved me for 10 years. I started to look forward to our wedding. On the wedding day, the banquet hall was abuzz. As Tina walked in wearing her wedding dress, all eyes focused on her. I moved towards Tina, towards the woman I'd spend my life with. Suddenly, I overheard whispers among the crowd. Even the underdog gets a chance sometimes. Keep trying and you'll get anything. Quite the handsome guy, Tina didn't make a mistake. Their tone was mocking. These were Tina's old friends, witnesses to her wild teenage years of drinking, clubbing, racing, and everything else. During her 3 years of pursuing me, I made it clear I didn't want such wild connections. For me, she distanced herself from them, only staying in touch occasionally. They thought I restrained Tina's freedom, disliked me, and derisively called me her lapdog. Even now, their whispers were just loud enough for me to hear. I pretended not to notice. Today is the most important day of my life, and all these people, they don't matter. It's just me and Tina. That's all that counts. As I walk up to Tina, I notice her eyes are a bit red, tears shimmering in them. She holds my hand tight, voice shaking. Ben, we're finally getting married. At that moment, everything else fades away. It's just her, and the unmistakable love in her eyes. The officiant starts the ceremony. The words are heavy with meaning. Young and rich through sickness and health, till death do us part. Do you take this vow? Looking at Tina, I find myself smiling genuinely for the first time in days. I do. Tina can't hold back her smile either. Her eyes burn with warmth. You don't. Suddenly, the door slams open. It's Eric, wearing a white suit. He charges in, his eyes red and locked onto Tina. Tina, you don't really want this, do you? Silence takes over the hall. Everyone's stunned, including Tina. She's gripping my hand, so tight it hurts. Her beautiful brows pull together in a frown as she looks at Eric. Eric flashes his signature grin, bright as the sun. Tina, I love you and you know that, right? I know I'm not much, Ben. I don't know you, and I'm not the sweetest guy, but I love Tina more than you do. You have no idea how hard it was to put on this suit, he says, holding out his hand to Tina. Tina, come with me? I don't care if I'm called a third wheel. I just want to be with the one I love. He's here to crash the wedding. Standing there, I feel a chill run through my veins. Without the makeup, my face would look awful right now. My hand really hurts. Tina's grip is too strong. It's like she's trying to break my knuckles. I see the glint in her eyes but hear her cold words instead. Where's security? How did someone without an invite get in? Get him out of here. Eric's smile freezes. Shocked, he looks at Tina like he can't believe her cruelty. Maybe he thought he knew her better. Tina once called him foolish and he proved her right. He's willing to be a secret lover, but Tina won't be a public scandal. As a billionaire CEO, her reputation is everything. Just a little scandal could cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. He obviously underestimated her. Trying not to cry, Eric blinks away his tears. Tina, I thought you felt the same about me. He thinks this will win her over. But Tina, her arm around my waist, looks at him with undisguised contempt. Eric, what gave you that idea? Ben is the love of my life. My husband can only be him. You're my assistant and you crossed the line. With her words, Eric is escorted out by security, amid a flurry of whispers. My breath catches. It hurts so much. Tina's attitude shows no flaw, and if not for the force of her embrace, I'd think she truly loathed Eric. Seeing my flushed face, Tina looks flustered. Sorry, honey, I should have secured the venue better. I didn't mean for him to interrupt our wedding. After calming me, she turns to the guests. Sorry for the interruption. I hope it didn't spoil your mood. Then, under the officiant's guidance, Tina slips a ring onto my finger. I'm distracted. It takes gentle nudges from her to place the ring on her finger too. After a long day, the wedding wraps up. In the car, Tina leans against my shoulder. I want to move away but have no energy, so I let her rest there. Drifting off, I fall asleep. When I wake, I'm on the wedding bed, alone. The night is eerily quiet. Tina? I call out. There's no answer but the pounding of my heart. On this first night of marriage, she's not home. I call her. Eric answers instead. Ben, why aren't you asleep? My heart skips, and breathing becomes hard. Eric's laughter hits my ears. Happy wedding, Ben. And to me, too. She kicked me out earlier, but not for you. She came to my place tonight. She told me she didn't want to make a scene. She kissed me, called me husband. We had our own wedding night. I hurl the phone at the wall. Our freshly decorated home now has a fresh scratch. Standing, I tear off my clothes, ripping them to shreds. What I can't tear, I bite and gnash. Glancing up at my reflection in the window, I snap back to reality. What happened? What am I doing? Disheveled hair, looking like a madman. I break down, tears turning to laughter. Tina, you always know how to hurt me deeply. I was so foolish, taking her word as truth and bare my heart to her. I won't let you hurt me again, I think, with determination. I pack and leave the wedding house that night. I don't look back. Every detail of this place is imprinted in my mind. There's no need to see it again. I don't want to stay in a hotel. Tina could easily find me. So, I dial a number I haven't called in 10 years. A familiar voice picks up. Hello, who's this? There's a surprise she hasn't changed her number. It's me, Ben, I say calmly. She sounds shocked. You're not dead? Not dead, believe it or not. She's my mother, only biologically. Wendy, I need to crash at your place. 10 grand, I offer. Wendy's tone immediately warms. No need for money, dear. Just come home. It's been 10 years. I've missed you. The next morning, I arrive at the old concrete house. Wendy rushes out to greet me. 10 years haven't changed you much, she says. Money does wonders. I lower my gaze. She's changed a lot. 10 years ago, the last time I saw her, she had a head full of black hair and an attitude to match. Now she's got a lot of grays and she's learned to flatter a bit. I transferred 100 grand to her account from my phone. She was all smiles as she tidied up a room for me. As I looked around, I noticed she lived alone. Why are you alone? I casually asked during dinner. Wendy looked down, shoveling food in her mouth, and faked a laugh. Bad luck for them, good luck for me. At least I lived long enough for you to come back with money. Her tone was light, but tears fell into her bowl. I found out later both her husband and son had died 5 years ago. In those 5 years, she'd been paying off her husband's debts, forgetting how to even smile. Looking at her wrinkled face, I wanted to ask if she regretted it. Her husband was my stepdad. I was the result of a fling she had with my dad when they were both 17. They barely finished middle school and couldn't afford to raise me. After I was born, they left me with my elderly grandma. Wendy refused to marry my dad, choosing instead a guy who always wore a suit and tie. She got pregnant with his kid when I was 7 and left my dad to marry him. My dad hated her and by extension hated me too. He got so mad he wanted to stab me. Grandma stopped him, but he went after Wendy instead. On the way, he was hit by a truck and died on the spot. Grandma somehow raised me on the tiny compensation we got. When I was 17, Grandma was in an accident at the same spot Dad had died. She survived but needed an expensive surgery, and I had no money. I went door to door in the village, begging on my knees. Nobody would lend me a dime because we had no pillar in the family, and they thought it was a lost cause. Being underage meant I couldn't get a loan. That's when I remembered the mom I hadn't seen since I was 7. I found her place, cried, and knelt, banging my head begging for the 80,000 I needed. Wendy chased me off with a broom, telling me to get lost, saying you're bad luck. I clung to her leg. Mom, please, I'll pay you back 100,000. Okay? Before she could reply, her husband kicked my shoulder. Scram, you little pest. He then warned Wendy, if you give him anything, you'll regret it. After he left, she shut the door on me, telling me even if I wanted to help, I can't. The old ones had her time, let her go. As I turned to leave heartbroken, she added, I'm not your mother. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. That year I lost both my mom and grandma, left alone in the world. Wendy's husband got killed over some loan shark business. When they came to collect, she found out her husband had debts from pretending to be rich and spending on streamers. Luckily, the loan sharks got arrested and the debt to them was wiped. But they still owed the banks. Before Wendy cleared those debts, 6 months after her husband's death, her son was diagnosed with cancer. Without money, she begged door to door too, but no one helped. They called it karma. People would gossip. Guess her son's no angel either. He inherited her bad luck, and now he's gone. Makes you wonder if during those times, Wendy thought about me, once in her shoes without options. Now, Wendy isn't fierce. She's timid, always seeking approval. Is she unforgivable? Maybe not. All she did was fall out of love, pursue wealth, and refuse to lend me money. It was acceptable. What I couldn't forgive was her cutting me off in my most desperate moment, fearing I'd ask her again. Even though I'm staying here, Wendy and I have nothing to say to each other. She's careful. I just pretend not to notice. I'll be here for a short stint. Once my job's sorted, I'm gone. I specialize in emerald appraisal and I'm naturally gifted. I've never misjudged a stone. I've been in this field even while dating Tina, but quit to plan our wedding 6 months ago. That company was too close to Tina. I don't want to go back. I want something new. Half a month in and no job offer yet, but then a huge man barged in. He burst in holding a knife high. Run. Still in shock, Wendy rushed out from the kitchen. Warm blood splattered on my face. It was the first time I'd seen anything like this and my legs were frozen. The scene was chaotic. I saw him stab Wendy a few more times. Then someone came in, stopping the attacker. Suddenly, I was pulled into a comforting embrace. Tina's voice trembled. Thank God you're safe. How did she end up here? But that wasn't the concern right now. I pushed her away and stumbled to Wendy. She lay there, blood pooled around her. She gave me a once-over, breathing out, it's over, it's over. They took Wendy to the hospital for emergency care. Tina went with me to the police station. And right at the station, we bumped into Eric. He lunged at Tina, eyes red with fear. Tina, I'm scared. Tina dodged him, her face steeled. Why are you here? Eric shot me an unnoticed glare, thinking it was my presence that made Tina hold back. The cops called me down. Later, I found out. The man swinging the knife was Eric's dad, Gene. Gene used to be a loan shark. 5 years ago, he accidentally killed Wendy's husband with a group of people, and Wendy took him to court. He got 8 years but was released early for good behavior. As soon as he got out, his first thought was to kill Wendy, whom he'd hated for 5 years. If Tina hadn't shown up, Wendy wouldn't have been the only one dead. I could have been too. Knowing Eric's dad is a murderer rattled Tina. Tina's company is a big corporation. New hires have to pass background checks. But Eric's parents divorced when he was young, and he used his mom's last name. So Gene's past doesn't officially affect him. Still, him being the son of a killer mattered to Tina. Eric didn't care. He tried to brush it off with Tina. It's just some injuries, he said. No one died. Can't we just pay for it and move on? Tina? Tina didn't even glance at him. She asked me, "How do you want to handle this?" I pressed my lips, turned to the police and said, "Do whatever needs doing. I trust the police." Jean was detained. As we left the station, Eric trailed behind Tina, sulking. "Why won't you talk to me? Are you dumping me?" This sucks." I pushed away Tina's hand. "Go cheer up your boy toy. I'm heading to the hospital." Even if there's no mother-son bond, she did jump in to protect me first. I should check on her. But Tina pulled me into her car, driving me herself. We left Eric shouting from the sidewalk. Tina gripped the steering wheel. "Stop being mad. Okay? Come back. What just happened was so dangerous. I almost lost you. How touching. I thought I was the unreasonable one." I looked out the window expressionlessly. "It wasn't almost, Tina. You did lose me." A sudden stop. Tina unbuckled and hugged me tightly. "Nonsense." She gritted her teeth. "Ben, that's nonsense. We just had our wedding. You're my husband. Everyone knows that. Where else would you go?" I frowned. "Tina, you know you can't just stop anywhere on the road, right?" But she only looked at me. "Ben, promise you won't leave me. Okay?" I finally got serious. "We had a wedding, sure, but there's no marriage license, right?" Tina seemed to freeze just then. I caught on, smiling slightly. "What? Did Tina forget that on the day we planned to get our license, you went abroad with Eric?" She didn't take my calls or even text back. She outright forgot our license day. At first, I truly believed she was busy and simply forgot she'd reach out once she had time. What a fool. Doesn't waiting for a reply sound pathetic? Thankfully, I don't wait anymore. Tina seemed to realize her fault, falling silent as she restarted the car, driving us to the hospital. When we got out, I heard her tense voice. "I'm sorry." Inside, Wendy was awake. She was lying face down, having been cut 3 times on the back. The wounds were deep, but the doctor said none were fatal. Wendy struggled to lift her head to look at me, eyes red. Her gray hair made her seem pitiful. Pitiful? Maybe. We both were. I tucked her blanket, then turned to leave. She grabbed my wrist. "Ben, will you come see me again?" Her eyes were full of hope. My fingers stiffened, and after a while I freed myself. "No, Wendy. 10 years ago you said we were done." I left without looking back. I heard her cry before shutting the door, first a suppressed sob, then full-on wailing. She's regretting it, but isn't it too late? Damn, why do my eyes sting too? Leaving the hospital, I knew Tina waited by the entrance, so I took a long detour out the side gate instead. Wendy and Tina, they both hurt me, and I don't want to face them anymore. The side street led out to an alley. I turned a corner and almost got hit by a speeding bike. The rider swerved and fell hard. "Watch where you're going," she yelled, annoyed. I rushed over to help. When she saw me, her angry look softened. "No, sorry, I wasn't looking. You're okay, right?" I stayed silent, helping her up. She clung to my arm a bit longer than needed. "Ouch, my knee, I might be hurt," she said. I bent to check and saw a tear in her loose pants, blood seeping out. "This girl clearly pinned this on me. Can you take me home, please?" I pointed. "The hospital's just around the corner. I've got medicine at home. It's just a scrape," she insisted, avoiding the hospital. I sighed and grabbed my phone. "What's your address?" Her eyes lit up, and she rattled off her address. I froze. It was a high-end neighborhood, even more exclusive than the rich area. People there usually have money and power. Tina had wanted our wedding house there, but it was too much. "Looks like I've got myself in a jam." Riding my bike, she sat back, hands around my waist, chatting away. "Her name's Linda, a college student. I'm getting my PhD," she added. Impressive. I dropped her off at her place. The building had 1 apartment per floor, fancy stuff. I guided her inside, intending to leave at the door. She grabbed my shirt. "Don't go, please. I feel a bit dizzy." The kids these days, the lengths they'll go to start a conversation. I didn't want to engage but saw her flushed face. Remembering how warm she felt helping her earlier, I realized she had a fever. A quick check confirmed it. I couldn't just leave her, so I helped her in. Lucky she had a first aid kit at home. After tending to her wound and putting on a fever patch, I was exhausted and collapsed on the ground. She was half conscious. I planned to leave once her fever subsided a bit, but an hour passed, and not only did she not get better, she felt even hotter. Freaked me out, so I called an ambulance right away. At the hospital, the doctor put her on an 4 drip and frowned seriously. Luckily, we got her there in time. If the fever continued, she could have suffered brain damage. It was that serious. She's a young PhD student. That wouldn't have been good at all. After the doctor left, I glanced at the 4. It had a lot left. I got up to head to the bathroom, but just as I reached the door, someone grabbed me and shoved me against the wall. Tina, holding my waist, glanced into the room at the woman on the bed and frowned deeply. Ben, who is she? She was always jealous back then, and any woman around me would make her see red. She was my girlfriend back in the day, but now? I looked at her evenly. Does it matter to you? Ben, you're my husband. Why are you taking care of another woman? You're supposed to take care of me. First, I'm not your husband. We never got married. I wasn't the one at the altar with you. I stared at her. Secondly, I'll care for whoever I want, but not you. Tina's eyelashes trembled as if her air supply had been cut off. Her voice soft. You know everything? Your new boyfriend was so eager to let the world know you chose him. How could I not know? You hoped I'd stay clueless and wait for you at home, right? No, listen to me. I love only you. Please believe me, okay? Tina panicked. I laughed. Believe? Tina, do you think there's anything left for me to believe in? I remembered something suddenly and spoke slowly. He's all looks and not much else. He's clingy, can't live without me, and would die without me. But losing him doesn't bother me. He's so distant and dull. Acting all high and mighty is tiring. Tina quickly covered my mouth. Stop, she pleaded, looking pale, her voice barely audible. Please, Ben, stop. What is it? You can't take hearing your own words? I pushed her hand away. No, I have more to say. Are you surprised I heard that? Tina, the night you returned from abroad, Eric called me. After we hung up on the video chat, he called again, and I heard drunk Tina telling Eric and her so-called friends about me. Because of your words, they all saw me as your lapdog. I watched Tina's tense lips, brushed her cheek lightly with my hand. Tina, why did you do that? You reached for the moon, then complain it's cold. Did you not know it was cold before you went for it? The hospital room door suddenly swung open. Linda, holding the 4-pole, came out and pushed Tina aside. Get away. Tina, unprepared, stumbled. Before I could react, Linda was in front of me. She bent forward, pressing her soft lips against mine. My mind went blank. Her kiss was gentle, not aggressive, just light and fleeting. Bastard, Tina shouted, grabbing Linda's collar and pulling her back before slapping her. Linda, unwilling to back down, slapped her in return, and they started to fight. Enough! I tried to separate them but failed, until medical staff came and pulled them apart. Both ended up with scratches on their faces, neither looking any better than the other. After getting treated, they glared at each other in the room, neither yielding. Touch my boyfriend again and you're dead, Tina spat. Linda scoffed. I heard you didn't even get married. How's he your boyfriend? She raised her perfectly shaped eyebrows at me. Hey big bro, look at me. I'm young, I'm pretty, I'm rich and I won't cheat. Shut up. Tina tried to lunge at her again, but I held her back. She looked up at me, stunned. Ben, you're helping her? Whatever I do doesn't concern you. Leave. She didn't move. I repeated, Tina, I'm done with you. For a moment, Tina's straight-spined form crumpled, her demeanor so fragile it seemed it might shatter. And that's it? She asked softly. I gave no answer. Not long after, Tina left, her form lonely and defeated. Meanwhile, Linda was beaming. What are you smiling about? I don't want you either, I said bluntly. Her smile disappeared instantly. Why not? Give it a shot. I'm not after your money or your heart. I just want your attention, that's all. No harm in trying, she said, trying to persuade me. I took 2 steps back, keeping my distance from her. I don't trust you. It's not that I don't believe in love anymore, just not as easily. Especially with someone who's just in their 20s. Come to think of it, I was in my 20s when I started dating Tina. 20-year-old Tina had bright, sparkling eyes too, would sweet-talk me, pledging eternal love. Yet 7 years later, her heart changed, didn't it? Women's words, big or small, can't be trusted. Linda seemed unsatisfied. Seeing she wasn't as injured anymore, I turned and left. That day was packed with trouble, but at least one good thing happened. At night, I got a job offer. My new journey would start the next day. On my first day, my skilled eye helped me appraise several valuable pieces of jade worth millions. My co-workers were impressed, though they gossiped more about my marriage than my skills. At that wedding, there were reporters and nearly everyone knew. At that grand wedding, someone showed up in a tux to crash it, and the bride firmly chose her groom. One of my colleagues noticed my bare finger. Why aren't you wearing a wedding ring? Honestly, it annoyed me. I just wanted to move on. But everything seemed to keep dragging me back to Tina. I couldn't shake her off. About a week later, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. It was one of Tina's friends, someone who once mocked me for being her pushover. Ben, why are you unsatisfied with Tina? She spent a decade on you. You think you can just walk away? What is Tina to you? Ridiculous. They accuse me of not being worthy of Tina, yet blame me for leaving her. Wasn't I part of her decade? Where's her loss? Without me, she's still the big boss with plenty of men wanting to be with her. There will always be guys like Eric in the future. Why waste time on a boring guy like me? Instead of blaming me, they should care for her more. Let her have fun but keep her personal life in check. If she gets sick, no one can fix it. After that, I blocked them without hesitation. Maybe she relayed what I said to Tina. A few days later, news came out that Eric was under investigation. The charges were financial crimes and leaking company secrets. Is it true? Definitely not. I've been with Tina for 7 years and never took any secrets from her company, even when we were madly in love. There's no way Eric, who's just an assistant, would have access. So this must be Tina's doing. That's ruthless, targeting a man she's been with like that. Considering my past experiences, it's not surprising. Tina is heartless, a total jerk. That night, just as I got off work, this jerk showed up, drunk and kissing me against a wall. Don't go, come back, she slurred. Disgusting. Just made me want to puke. How dare she use lips that have kissed others on me? Tina, let go of me. Don't make me hate you, I said, trying to push her away. Drunk Tina was even more unreasonable. She didn't care that we were outside, shamelessly sliding her hand under my shirt. I screamed, "Go away, Tina, leave." Then there was a thud, and Tina stumbled to the ground. Linda stood there, swinging a baseball bat. Harassing people? Not on my watch, she sneered. When she saw me, she hesitated. "It's you." Then dropped the bat and quickly approached. "Brother, you okay?" Shocked, I shook my head. What wouldn't Tina do? I was scared to think. Linda, furious, kicked Tina a couple of times, then grabbed my hand. "I'll take you home." Seeing me hesitate, she softened. "Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you." Linda walked me home and left, looking back often, saying goodbye repeatedly. I could tell she liked me. The brightness in her eyes was even greater than Tina's at 20. But I couldn't respond. I was someone recently hurt by love, broken and battered. I couldn't give her the same love in return. I decided to just focus on work, live well, and heal myself. That would be enough. When Wendy recovered, I didn't visit her upon discharge. Arranged for her transfer to a nursing home instead. I'd taken care of everything. Though she was only in her 50s, her shoulder blade was slashed 3 times, not life-threatening but affecting mobility. If she went back to the village, she might die unceremoniously, unnoticed. Better to send her to a nursing home where they have funeral services. No matter how long she lives, I won't have to see her again. On my birthday, Linda came to find me at work. "What's up?" I asked. "Come celebrate your birthday," she said. Dressed in a hoodie and black pants, she looked fresh and clean, her eyes sincere. "How did you know it's my birthday?" I asked, surprised. She gave me a surprised look back. Today is your birthday too? Turns out, Linda and I share the same birthday. She came wanting me to join her for cake. I'm alone here. It's boring to celebrate by myself. Don't you have friends? I asked. Nope. All my PhD classmates are 30-something. We can talk studies, but not life, she sighed. Oh right, she's a genius. Geniuses are always lonely. How about a bar? I suggested. Isn't that what girls her age love? Linda replied seriously, never been, never will. I can't handle alcohol. That I didn't expect. She seemed like the cool, party type, but turns out she's a goody two-shoes. But at her age doing a PhD, she probably didn't have time for partying before. I agreed to join her birthday celebration. I was alone anyway, might as well have some company. We headed to the cake shop to pick out a cake. Approaching, I noticed a familiar figure at the entrance. I hesitated, suddenly not wanting to go in. But pausing for just a moment, a car sped towards me. Watch out, Linda shouted, combined with the sound of wind. As I fell, I saw the person from the cake shop stumbling towards us. I collapsed into Tina's arms, Linda lying in a pool of blood. The driver was Eric, deemed guilty of financial crimes, about to serve time. According to his confession, he believed it was all my fault. So before going to prison, he wouldn't let me go. Like father, like son? His dad indiscriminately killed, and Eric inherited that trait. Eric looked at Tina standing behind me, crying, Tina, do you hate me that much? Tina's face was cold. Eric, don't ever fall into my hands this lifetime. Leaving the police station, I wanted to go to the hospital, and Tina insisted on coming along. I didn't bother arguing. Linda was still in surgery. When we arrived, we only saw nurses coming and going. She must be in pain. She shouldn't have had to bear this. If I hadn't agreed to celebrate her birthday, eyes brimming with tears, I was suddenly embraced by Tina. Ben, you're moved, right? I'd risk my life for you too. Tina, that's enough. I don't know where I mustered the strength, but I slapped her hard. What's going on? Don't you know? Is there only love in your eyes at a time like this? Tina, I've had enough of you. Tina's eyes reddened, but she didn't say a word. After the doctor came out, Linda was wheeled into the ICU. The surgery went well, but she had to be monitored in the ICU. She hadn't woken up for 2 days, and there was a risk she might become unresponsive. My head was buzzing, and I didn't even know how things got to this point. Only one person was allowed in the ICU at a time. I didn't look at Tina again. I just went in alone. As Tina left, a tear hung at the corner of her eye. For 2 whole days, Linda showed no signs of waking up. I was so scared I grabbed her arm, and the tears just wouldn't stop. Linda, could you wake up, please? She had such a bright future ahead. She shouldn't have ended up like this because of me. I couldn't help but cry out loud. There was nothing I could do. You promised to marry me and I'll wake up. A voice suddenly cut in, and without thinking, I nodded. Okay, I promise you, wake up. She opened her eyes. It hit me I'd been tricked. I raised my hand but didn't know where to hit, so I just pounded on the bed. Linda, you... Her lips were cracked, yet she smiled at me. Haha, gotcha? I don't care. You promised, so you have to marry me. 2 months later, Linda fully recovered and left the hospital. 2 weeks after that, she and I walked into the wedding venue. She wore the black wedding dress she'd always loved. When we were picking out the dress with Tina, honestly, I liked the black one too. But Tina cared more about what people would think and went with white. But I didn't have to worry about that with Linda. She wore it without a care in the world. The venue was packed with guests. I walked down the aisle alone, and for once, there was no annoying chatter, just gasps and compliments. This was the way a wedding should feel. Linda took my hand, kissed the back of it, and smiled with such joy. When the officiant asked if we'd stick together through thick and thin, the wheels of fate turned. The doors opened again. But it wasn't Eric who walked in this time. It was Tina. She wore a white wedding dress, stealing the show. Ben, no, come with me. She stretched out her hand. Linda's face turned cold immediately. What's this? How'd someone with no invite get in? Bad luck. I raised my hand to soothe her shoulder, then looked at Tina. You should go. My wife is upset. Linda relaxed instantly when I called her my wife. She held my hand and said with a pout, I'm not mad. Just didn't want to see her today. Then just pretend we didn't, I said, turning away with her hand in mine. We looked into each other's eyes and agreed to be there for each other. As we exchanged rings, I caught sight of Tina's slumped shoulders. Tina, it hurts to see someone you like with someone else. Doesn't it? Back then, was I really any better off than you? During the kiss the bride moment, I lifted Linda's veil, leaned in, and caught her lips before she could react. This time it was just a taste. She smiled with squinting eyes, whispered in my ear, Thanks, big brother. I'm happy, even if it's fake. After the wedding ended, and before the guests could leave, some investigators from the prosecutor's office arrived. They came to take Tina for questioning. Yes, I reported her for the charges she falsified against Eric. As for where I got the evidence, I had friends in her company, including the one who sent me Eric and Tina's elevator photos. Tina was taken away. She looked back at me one last time, knowing what kind of trouble she was in for fabricating charges and potential financial crimes. Maybe she might never see me again in this lifetime. She stopped and looked deeply at me. Ben, what now? You've really become my first love. After Tina left, Linda linked her arm through mine, scoffing. Who cares about her anyway? Then we started handing out red envelopes to the guests. Yeah, all the guests were paid to be there, $1,000 each. Had no choice. Linda insisted on marrying me. The day I agreed in the hospital, she stroked my head and said, Ben, I was kidding. I couldn't force you like that. I don't do tit for tat. If you don't want to marry me, I get it. But please, could you give me a wedding? You both had one. And so, here was this wedding. After everyone left, it was just the two of us in the huge hall. Linda studied me closely. Curious, I asked, What are you looking at? Looking at you, she replied. I chuckled and asked, Like that? She nodded fiercely. Yeah, because I want to remember you well since I'm putting you back in the sky. The moon is just the moon. It's not anyone's moon. Big brother, you can always hang there high and cold. I love the moon. I wouldn't pluck it down. I'd just chase after it.